Hello, folks. Here we are going live. Excuse me, we're just waiting for Venerable Wayne Hughes to show up. The title of the topic that we're going to be discussing is karma.
I probably turn a camera on. Look red.
You look red.
Yep, I have to adjust my adjust my windows. Wish I had a blue filter because I don't really think I'm that red. Anyway, so
what started this off was, I remember I was on your stream one night and we were just having a brief chat about Buddhism. And somebody asked me in the comments section, what's karma? Or what's the Buddhist concept of karma? And does that mean that, for example, poor people deserve to be poor, or it's their own fault for being poor? So karma can be a very tricky subject to talk about. And I think we've all heard the saying, what goes around comes around. And I was listening to some other Buddhist teachers who say karma is an action, it's the movement of mind. I'm just going to post the StreamYard link in the chat.
Okay. So as a secular Buddhist, karma to me is and very much what goes around comes around, but it's when it comes around. It doesn't come around after you die, but rather comes around in your own life over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So sometimes it comes around very quickly and slaps you right upside the head as soon as you do something wrong. But it's all about I guess purity of mind in action and how you live your life. But the version of karma from Francis Varela is kind of where I got it. That it's habits. Like I always explain it as people often people have noted that if they've been in multiple relationships in their life, they feel like they keep having the same relationship with the same person over and over again. And it's like you keep picking the same person. Well, it's the same with things like alcoholism or addiction or in any other really powerfully negative influence on your life. If you keep in this karmic cycle, the habits will keep popping up over and over and over again until you break out of the cycle. And when you break out of the cycle, then you're well, you're somewhere else dealing with new cycles. So that's
Yep. Yep.
kind of how I
Yep.
look at it.
Yeah.
Which I like.
When I was saying that karma is action, it's like the movement of the mind, and the mind is made up of moments of consciousness, sort of
Yep.
moment after moment, and the mind goes through many different experiences.
Yeah.
Um,
I was. Well, go
I'd
ahead.
like to think there was natural justice, that karma was a thing.
Yeah. Or there's another weird take on karma that I picked up when I was a little boy or a teenager or a young adult growing up in northern Minnesota. When I would run into a group of older men, they would always say, "Whose boy are you?" They always want to know who my father was, and I was judged on my father. I was
Yeah.
judged based on my family name, and so my father created a little karma for me, by what he did, and
Yeah.
that is an interesting take on it. But it's all about these circles and cycles and habits and patterns, and
Yes. Yeah.
but I was doing a kind of meditation that I do while I was in my hot tub recently, and very recently, like a half an hour ago. My hair is still wet,
Nice.
and so I did various things to quiet my rational mind, to quiet my thinking mind, and then as soon as I would quiet it, a little thing would pop up, and it was and I noticed that there was this like, yeah, our mind on a daily basis is like a bed of stones, little or objects, little things that are out there, and you're not conscious of them right now. But as soon as you quiet your mind, one of them will pop up. Yeah. So, it popped up that I had to be here today, and that it popped up that I have the YouTube channel that I'm working on. And then my kids pop up, and my ex-wife, and just all these current things that are sort of in this bed of my mind, but not necessarily conscious at that time. If I'm focused on something, I'll be focused on that thing. But as soon as I am not focused, my mind will go and find one of these little things to cogitate upon. And it's very difficult to quiet it entirely and just, like I was feeling the air conditioner was blowing on me from one end, and the hot tub from the other end, and it was, and that's what I wanted to feel and be, is where I was in the world at that time without thinking.
Yes.
About, all this other stuff. So, but I work on that nowhere near as much as I should, but I work on it a little bit, trying to bring myself into the world concurrently, just not
like being mindful, being in the present moment.
Yeah, they call it mindful, and for me, it's almost like mindless. But it's still, you're mindful of everything that's impinging on you from the world, but you're not cogitating or not thinking word thoughts or thinking patterns or whatever, or thinking about things that aren't here. That sort of thing. Like if you're afraid of lightning, and there's no thunderstorm, it doesn't do you much good. So those are the kinds of things that you really don't need to be thinking about, right? Okay. You need to think about lightning when you're running between the trees when the lightning's coming down.
Yeah. That's good advice. That's good advice. Yeah, and another thing that I find quite interesting, that Buddhism doesn't have a concept of sin per se, as the Christian faith does. In Christianity, we're all sort of tainted as soon as we're born with sin.
Yeah.
But Buddhism doesn't have that concept. They use the karma, the idea of karma.
Yeah.
That everything has a cause.
Yeah, it makes no
and
sense.
a following reaction.
Makes no sense to be born with sin or overly concerned with sin, but
No.
being concerned with how you conduct your life right now is important. But I'm going to touch on a little bit of a controversy in a Bible church. This church out east that's going on right now, and they are very much into sin, and they're fighting over what kind of sin is the most important right now, which is really interesting. There seems to be a split between which kind of sin we should be concentrating on, that sort of thing. But a lot of this ties into recovery from alcoholism and addiction, because in these programs that you get into, you deal with unburdening yourself of your past. You kind of confess your sins in a way, and you leave them behind, at the same time as illuminating something about your nature that you may have to change in order to break out of the karmic cycle of addiction and alcoholism. So it's very much related.
Interesting.
And I've been through that. Pretty much all of my life has been spent trying to break out of that cycle and having successes and failures. So
peaks and troughs.
Yep.
The roller coaster of life.
Right. All of which I am extremely grateful for, especially the troughs. I would not change a thing. I would not go back and do something differently or have something different happen to me, which is kind of an interesting place to be. Yeah, no theological construct or no basis in reality. I think the only way sin makes sense is you tend to when you do something bad, it leaves you in a state of guilt or maybe anger or resentment or some negative influence on yourself, and you have to get right with what you did, what your part of it was, and you have to get right with letting it go, just releasing it. So that's the only way that the only kind of sin that makes sense to me is, you go to a party and you say something really dumb that ends up really not working out. You can tell the other people are very offended by it, right?
Yeah.
And then you go home and you sit in your chair and you have this sort of yucky feeling that what did I do? And that's the point where you say, okay, here's what I did, and you pick up the phone and you call that person and you say, hey, I'm sorry. I should not have said that. And you basically, and then you let it go. And then you do this, you let go. You don't sit there and hold your sin, and hit yourself with it. If you're still hitting yourself, then there's something you still have to do in order to make it right, that sort of thing. So
yeah, you make a lot of sense.
But that basically what I've described is a 12-step program.
I see.
Yeah.
And is that where you sort of call on a higher power to guide you through the 12-step program?
It's a higher power in a sense that it's not me so much. Like when I let go, that's not me that I'm taking it out of myself and I'm letting it go. I'm putting it into the universe. I'm done with it. I'm through.
Yeah.
So I'm letting go. And when if I were to, I use a practice that I call prayer, where I will if something is something I cannot resolve, I cannot figure out, should I go left, should I go right? Okay. And then I'll say, okay, I will bring it into my consciousness presently and think about it. And then I will say, okay, I'm letting this go. And then when I let it go, oddly enough, in other words, I don't keep trying to belabor, the choice. I don't run. I've run out of options. I'm done. So I let it. So I do this prayer, and then within 24 hours, something will happen. And of course, this thing is still in my mind, but it's subconscious, right? And something will happen that illuminates my choice in some different way. I'll see it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's, oh, hell, I mean, I should have known this all along. I should go right. It's so obvious I should go right. And I would call that an answer to the prayer. But nowhere in this have I invoked anything supernatural or anything or any kind of a God or anything. I just accepted that I'm a fallible human being, and sometimes I have to just let go. Hey, Scott.
Hello, Scott. Hello, Scott. Hey. And hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Let me just say,
I'm sorry. I think Venerable Wayne's had a technical glitch or a problem or something. He hasn't shown up yet.
Never mind. I'm sure
I'm not sure if he's okay with YouTube and StreamYard. Right. I'll keep checking my emails to see if I get any message, but he did confirm he would pop on.
Okay.
But Speed of Sound's been doing an excellent job.
Oh, good. I'm sorry I'm late then in that case.
Oh, no need to apologise. No need to apologise.
Okay.
We haven't long started, actually.
Let me just see if I can find... There it is. Good. So what have you covered so far?
I don't know. The secular Buddhism, sort of some of the practices that I do in my own life, praying, letting go, meditating, karma, a little bit on karma, and
the role that plays in overcoming addictions and bad habits.
Yeah, how it relates to
that is a tough one.
Yeah,
that's a real tough one. Oh, hello. Oh, so nice to see you on screen.
Hello. I don't know if it's nice for everybody else, but
oh yes, it is. I'm sure.
Yep.
I think we could be twins, Simus.
Oh really?
I think
so. How kinky. No.
You can see my kind of Buddhist shrine in the background over there.
Yeah, I can actually. Yeah. And I'm just looking for the cat. Can't see the cat.
She's by my feet.
Ah, okay.
My cats are.
Yeah, addiction's a real tough one. I've never found any way to really address it other than through cold turkey, and that isn't a very good way, right? So I have to force myself to be in a place where I can't, where I have no other choice.
For me, I have to bring myself down to the very rock bottom before I can possibly consider, before I can break out of that cycle, and that is something I call karma. The cycle of using over and over again. And for me, it manifested as using for 9 days until I collapsed physically, and then recovering for 3 days, swearing I'd never do it again, and then doing it again on the third day. Over and over and over again for years, at a time. Mm-hmm. And in order to break out of if you call that a karmic cycle, in order to break that cycle, it takes a massive reset of your entire brain in order to you have to kind of empty yourself entirely of all opinions, ideas, theories.
Yeah.
all will, even willpower. Because for me, willpower manifested itself as if it was 40 below and my car wouldn't start and I needed to go get a bottle or a drug, I would find a way. I mean, I had amazing willpower. So my willpower wasn't working for me. It was working in the addiction, And so obviously I couldn't will this thing away, and then for the 2 days when I was recovering that I wanted to quit, that I really, I can't do this anymore. I want to do this anymore. I could never guarantee that I would have that same want on the third day. And lo and behold, on the third day, I would use again because I would be now a different person than the person that wanted to quit 2 days ago. I had no control, it was.
Yeah, I mean, I the times I did manage to kick smoking before I finally did, I was looking for an excuse to start again.
Yeah.
I managed to stop. And I'd go, okay, look, I'm just going to do this, right? That's it. I'm going to stop on such and such a day. And my willpower was strong enough to say, okay, that's it. I'm not going to go and buy cigarettes. I'm not going to go and buy anything else. And that's it. I'm just not going to have it in the house. And then, sure enough, like 4 days later or whatever, I'd be like really getting a bit antsy. You know what I mean? With myself going, I really wish I could. But no, I'm not going to. And then I'd walk past someone in the street and I'd smell the smoke and I'd go, oh, fuck it. And that was it. That was enough of an excuse for me to go, oh, somebody else is doing it. Even though I don't know them. That's enough for me to turn around and go, oh, God, we've got to do that. Or somebody having a go at me, right, for smoking.
Yeah.
I gave up, right? I managed to give up for 2 weeks. And then somebody came up to me and went, oh yeah, you're a smoker. That's horrible. I really don't like, And I'm like, I don't smoke anymore. Yeah, you say that, but you probably do, don't you? Well, probably. I probably will go back to it. In fact, I'm going now.
Yeah.
And that was enough. So any excuse at all. And it wasn't until I managed to break that cycle. And in fact, what it was giving up, having the fortitude to go a week. And then going, that's it. I'm just going to isolate myself until I get over the physical effects of it. And then I've just got the mental effects to deal with. And at least that's half the battle won. And then once I'd managed to do that, then I was more like, oh, actually, I can do this now. Now I don't have that same craving. Now it's just that mental, I really wish I could. Hang on a minute. I know it's a stupid thing to do. So why am I keep doing it? And I had that in my mind. So.
Yeah,
that's the only way I finally managed to do it. Plus, it was killing me. So, of course, that was the motivation that made me go, this is why it's stupid.
Yeah, I think it's still killing me. But so I quit 10 years ago, a 6.2 pack a day habit. And I have no idea how I quit that day. I have no idea why I quit. I didn't plan to quit. I didn't try to quit. But on the caveat is that I never dealt with the physical problem because I still use nicotine lozenges. Right. And that was partially based on advice from a doctor telling me that they were the thing. They were antidepressants for me, that I needed to keep this. And he told me there are a number of reasons why you should continue to do it for the rest of your life. And so I separated the physical, but I mean, I was, even with lozenges before anything, any kind of quit smoking aid, I couldn't quit for more than an hour. I mean, I'd go through this big quit smoking plan that would last 1 hour and I was back. And the day I quit, I have no idea what made me quit. And one could say that is a higher power in a sense, right? I mean, there were things accumulating, but the actual quitting was sort of accidental. It was something in my mind that had been apparently working for a long time, or in my body or whatever. And I just said, you know what? I'm not. And then I was going to use cigars. I was going to use these cigarettes. And I figured if I did one or two of those a day, I'd be good, right? Well, then I threw those away, and I didn't even want to use those. So I never had a puff of smoke after that. And I've had temptations that last for about 25 seconds, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it just blows away.
That's where I found that meditation ethos, let's put it that way, was most useful. Is when I got the psychological addiction back again.
Don't put your button in.
Then I'd just go, okay, yeah, this is a cycle. I've been to this cycle before. All I need to do is break this little cycle. It doesn't take much more than some deep breathing and clearing the mind to be back in my ground state again. And once I'm in my ground state, I know that I will not do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that confidence was enough for me just to go. I'm not even, and I never really suffered any physical effects from it either, from withdrawal effects after that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Once I got over that physical addiction, you know, then it was fine. It was just the mental addiction, and that was much easier to handle with, as I say, meditation, or not even that really, just recognizing that it's because my mind started getting active that was giving me the addiction problems, and that I could just calm myself down and get to, as I say, become more grounded, either talk to somebody or somebody that I knew would ground me, or do it myself in terms of, you know, trying to maybe play some guitar or sing or whatever it was that would put me back into a state where I wasn't thinking, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I remember when I was at the Buddhist monastery, there was a lot of people who were recovering addicts there as well. Although the monastery was very clear it wasn't a detox centre.
Yeah. I think those physical effects you can't. You just have to spend the time away from the drug to get over those. There's no amount of mental condolence is going to get you through that time, right? You literally just got to grin and bear that time. That's why some drugs, like heavy drugs, are really difficult, because the physical addiction is so much harder than just tobacco.
Couple you can die from. Going cold.
Alcohol withdrawal is one of them, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Can be fatal.
Yeah.
As we've seen, in someone in the community has done that recently. I say recently.
Yeah.
A while ago, and they're really suffering. You can tell they're a different person to how they were before. Even before, when they weren't drinking, you know. So.
In my early 20s, the detox center in northern Minnesota happened to be in an old building that used to be the hospital where I was born. So the counselor would call me an effing homing pigeon every time I would show up, because he says, you keep coming back, because he realized that I was born in that hospital. It was like a weird little house, and when you went down into the bottom and in the back rooms, they still had all these old gurneys and these drawers of medical equipment and stuff. So, but I was a homing pigeon. I kept coming back. Spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, karma. Interesting. I mean, I think karma is balance more than I think of it as anything else. Although technically it was explained.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Technically, maybe that's slightly wrong. As you know, when something happens, then the equal and opposite will happen, right? And I think that's more superstitious, rather than looking at it as a station in your life where you can find this equilibrium, you know.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, it would be nice to think that there was a natural justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, nature says otherwise, but yeah. Okay.
Yes.
But I mean, I tried to explain to someone, you know, when I was in my maybe 30s or something, you know, they'd just had a kid, whatever, and they were heavily into drug use. And I was saying, well, now you've got a kid, of course, you know, you're going to have to take that back a bit and be more responsible. You know, they just got married and what have you. And I remember he had a real go at me about it. And because I was sitting talking to his wife and just going, well, I think with drugs, it's just about moderation. I wouldn't want to tell my kids not to do drugs because I think that would be hypocritical, right?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to say go and do drugs because I think that's not good for life.
Yeah.
So I would just say, look, make sure when you try drugs, you do it in moderation, right? And make sure that you find out what they're about first before you get heavily into them, right? So, and he absolutely flipped out on me about this moderation. And when I think back about it, I think actually if I'd been less extreme myself in my life, that would have been a lot better for me. I may not have, I may not have had the highs that I had, but I certainly wouldn't have had the lows. And that would have made quite a lot of difference to my well-being, I think, over the long period. So I think that moderation rule, and it's a Greek thing, of course, for me. I mean, that's where I first heard about it. I can't remember who it was, maybe Pythagoras or someone said there are always two extremes, and the well-lived life is finding the middle point. So
got to focus on the animal. I get 5 points for content animal.
Yeah.
This is Thor. He's the good kitty. The other one's the evil kitty. So
yin and yang. There you go.
So with my teenage sons, I was sober the whole time until they were 16, 17 years old. They saw me drunk once when they were 13, but that was for like a one-night deal. And I told them about addiction and drugs, and I told them everything that happens from the good to the bad. From the first rush of the speed, when you take uppers, to that whole long coming down, and when you get in that point where you're up and down, and you're doing it for weeks, and how shitty you feel, and all of this. So I talked to them all their lives about addiction and told them that I was an addict, and then. One day, when they were 13, we went out to a steakhouse, and I ordered a Heineken. And I looked at it, and they said, "Dad, what the hell are you doing?" And I said, "I'm not an alcoholic." I realized that was all bullshit, and I was serious, right? And I think it took 24 hours, but at the end of that, I was swilling NyQuil, and I smashed a coffee pot, and I just went nuts, just crazy. And then again, when they were, but I gave them permission to do drugs and drink if they wanted. And I told them there's one caveat: if I see that you're an alcoholic or an addict, if you are overusing or abusing, you're going into treatment because I got control of you till you're 18. I said, other than that, I just want you to come and talk to me about what you're doing. I want to know what you're doing, and we always had pretty open relationships, so they could always tell me things. Well, then they they went off and decided on their own that they weren't going to drink or do drugs ever. And then when they were 17, I give them a live demo of what it's like for a year of me crashing. And I got one son that told me recently, he said, "No, Dad, it wasn't the education. It was the live demo you gave us that decided." Wow. And they're 40 years old now, and they still have never smoked a cigarette, taken a drug, or had a drink. And they made that decision on their own, which I thought, and it wasn't because it was a rule, right? I didn't make a rule because I know how good rules are when the kid leaves the house, right? So
especially when it comes to things which are addictive,
Yeah, so it turned out to really work, and I have always been concerned that if they start drinking, because I can tell they have the same traits as I do. If they ever start, zoom, they're going to hit the bottom in about 15 minutes,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, actually, I never, I didn't drink at all. I can't remember why. Maybe from the age of 18 onwards, I stopped drinking about 18.
Yeah.
Mainly because I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I genuinely didn't enjoy it. I had some bad experiences as well, of course, like most teenagers. But I just went, and then what actually happened is I read the Quran. Okay.
Wow.
Really?
And it said no drinking, no gambling. And I went, do you know what? I can do that. And that's okay for me. Yeah. That fits in with my kind of ethos, But then I'd already started smoking, so I just hit smoking 10 times harder than I would have done had I been drinking as well. And it turns out both my brothers drink, and they're not even close to addiction. So I think I would have been able to get away with it a little bit more, and I probably would have smoked less or given up tobacco at an earlier age. But who knows?
And you being in the music industry, that must have been rife. So it must have been quite hard to get away from.
Yeah, for sure.
That
I mean,
side of things.
this was like the mid '80s, so I mean, coke was everywhere, and there was no meeting I ever went to in the music industry where coke wasn't on the table when I got into the meeting. So I mean, yeah, it was just crazy.
You can see the evil kitty.
Yeah, I can see that one definitely looks evil.
I've lost my kitty. Yeah, I am sorry Venerable Wayne hasn't managed to arrive yet. I've just popped him an email in case he's having some problems with my number on it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
He could have got held up.
So I've made a commitment to do the weather report every day at 4, so I have to leave in about 20 minutes. So
yes.
I talk too much. I've talked too much anyway. But an interesting thing.
Shame. I would have liked you to have met him.
An interesting thing that happened to me is, I got into Buddhism through Ellen Watts probably when I was 15 years old. And prior to that, a friend and I had studied psychedelics, and we read everything we could on psychedelics. And of course, this is 1960s in northern Minnesota. The only people that had psychedelics were some of the bike gangs, and they were too dangerous to talk to. So we didn't actually get to try LSD until we were 19 years old. And when we did, I think it was it was about 1969, 1970. I guess I was 18. We quit drinking. We just went on this 1 year thing. We did nothing but LSD, mescaline, and mushrooms, and we looked down on people who still drank. But anyway, the journey through the 60s LSD years managed to teach me how to experience the world, and it was an amazing thing because we understood what the drug did and how it worked on you, that we were able to continue it without the drug. So I think in a lot of ways, I still see things more globally and differently than I would have had I not been for that. I don't recommend that, but that was an interesting thing to me. That psychedelics are something that we have not explored fully for psychotherapy and for treatment. Giving a person a drug to cure their drug problem seems kind of nuts, right? I don't know, but
no, I mean, there's a lot of work is being done on it these days, I believe.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, they're finally starting to research it again, and I think they're talking about therapeutic psilocybin and things like that for grief, and for end of life therapy and things like that.
Yeah, especially then, I would imagine, when your mind is much more fixed. And I did it a lot, well, not a lot, but I did it, can't remember, between the ages of maybe 15 to 19, somewhere around there.
Yeah, for me it was 18 to 24.
And I think it was very useful. I mean, every time I did a trip, I remember learning something about myself, more importantly than anything else. And actually, maybe learning something about myself, or I don't know, maybe it made me more introverted than I was prior, and maybe that's what I needed.
Yeah.
I was a little bit extroverted, I think, when I was very young, or not when I say very young. I moved a lot of countries. I lived in Canada, I lived in Texas. Finally got back to the UK and found this very small place, and that put, it was very, what's the word? Very parochial, very small, just very small, right? And small minds around me. And I didn't like it at all because I've been used to these much larger ideas being thrust around the place, you know?
Yeah.
You get in America, especially in Texas, everybody's king of the hill, you know?
Yeah.
And over here, it's very, very different, or was back then anyway, and this was in the 70s. And so, you know, but when I found mushrooms at first, I was really thrilled because it gave me some idea about life, as you say, global, just some global idea of how expansive humans and human communication can be. So I was very pleased, and I was lucky that I had this experience with some Buddhists, which had given me a pointer about universal love. So I was very, very lucky to have these experiences first, and then do mushrooms and acid and go, oh yeah, it's in me as well. Now I understand what that guy said to me like 4 years earlier, 5 years earlier, or whatever it was, about, you know, getting in touch with the divine and this idea of universal love. And the other thing that he impressed upon me was synchronicity as well. So
synchronicity is interesting. A lot of atheists really hate synchronicity, but I describe it as the low-hanging fruit in the universe. Synchronicity is everywhere, and that is something that the psychedelic experience taught me. Is to because I was stricken as a teenager with a bit of OCD and a bunch of other stuff, but I saw patterns everywhere, and they would freak me out most of the time. But I learned that these patterns were everywhere. They're like if you look at your life, like if I look at my life and my father and my kids being born. I was born to my dad when he was about 30, and my kids were born to me. My two sons were born to me when I was 30. My daughter when I was 17, and but I saw at one point I saw this poetry of me and my father and his father and my sons and going forward and backwards in time, and you could see this. You could see all of these synchronous moments and patterns, you know, going through. And no matter where you look, there's synchronicity.
Yeah.
So I call it the low-hanging fruit in the universe. And you know, it's just a way, and that's why I worship naturalism and complexity. And on the earth here, we're blessed with this perfect energy level, Goldilocks position that this carbon complexity has developed and created this life around us and through us. And we're all just part of this big kind of a mold on the earth, right? Is what we are if you look at it from a bigger perspective. But there is so much synchronicity in our interaction with life and with the universe. It's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Wild. You going to say something? Or
yeah, I find synchronicity fascinating because the experience I have is that I'll think of somebody that I haven't seen for years, and then I'll bump into them on the train that day that I've just been thinking about them, or I'll bump into them coming around the corner of the street. That's my sort of experience of synchronicity. I'll just have a thought of somebody pop into my head almost at random, and I'll think, oh, I wonder what happened to so and so, and then bingo, they sort of appear in front of me. I almost feel like I've conjured them.
Yeah.
And you know, it's that.
I always think of it as my luck. You know, and I kind of use it. I kind of think, oh, okay, now it's time for something to happen. And so I put some positive out there, and I go, yep, I know it'll come back. I just have a confidence that it'll come back. And I think, oh, I know why. It's because other people are thinking the same thing as me at the same time. At least that's what I kind of come to think. And so, I will walk into places going, oh, I'm about to meet somebody who's going to be really influential in my life. Or when I see somebody, I go, oh, actually, this person, we're going to be, our personalities really match. If I say the right things, we're going to be friends for life, kind of thing. I did that once. I was on a golf course, and I looked at this guy, and I knew I knew as soon as I saw him. I think it wasn't when I saw him; it's when I first heard him speak that I knew we were going to be best friends, and or not necessarily best friends, but close friends.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that at the time. I remember thinking, oh no, this guy's gonna. If I speak to this guy, if I say anything back, that's it. We're gonna be friends. So I don't want that. I'm sitting here smoking a spliff by myself, and I just want to be on my own. And of course, synchronicity. I gave out those things of like, nah. But he was feeling the same thing, and came over and went, oh hi. And I went, yeah, play through, whatever. I was playing golf, play through. And he went, no, I don't want to play through. I saw you sitting there and went, thought I'd come over and say hi. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. Yeah, well, sit down, chill out. No worries. And that was it. We became friends on the spot almost. And we're friends for many years, actually.
Oh, that's a lovely story.
Despite the fact we were very, very different. I was, at the time, I was very, very poor, and he was extremely rich. And,
wow.
we really didn't have the same kind of life at all. But every time he just went, oh yeah, I'll introduce you to someone, or he gave me £5,000 to sit down and play poker with him and his mates. And but because he's a friend, I had the good sense to lose it to him, so he could play with his mates for double the stake. You know what I mean? I just I knew that's what it was for. You know what I mean? So I did. I just went, oh really? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to raise you. Oh, I'm going to raise you again. And he was like, you don't want to do that? And I went, no, I'm sure I do actually. So
there you go.
So there we go. You know what I mean? And afterwards, he went, oh, thanks for that. I appreciate you didn't have to do that. So it was one of those things. But he was a good guy. He really was. And had a lovely family as well. His wife was a lovely person, Saudi princess, as it goes.
Have you guys lost me?
Nope, it's still here.
We can still hear you.
Okay, StreamYard is doing something really crazy to me. It went back to my studio, but I can't see your broadcast. I don't know what it's doing.
We've still got you here. I'll just check.
Yeah.
To see if
Are you in the right tab?
Yeah, I am in the right tab. It is amazingly weird. But I'm looking at I'm looking at all my broadcasts. I'm not looking at a picture of you guys. So
yeah, I'll probably wrap up the stream anyway. I'm sure what's happened is Wayne's got the wrong Monday, because he'd confirmed quite late, and he did mention in his email, if it's too late for today, we'll do it next Monday. And although I replied to him saying thank you for confirming, I've got a feeling he's thinking it's next week.
It's next Monday.
Monday. Okay. So we'll try again next Monday.
Indeed. Well, hopefully
he does seem keen to come on and speak, and he is a wonderful speaker. Good. And I really would like you to meet him. He's very down to earth. He goes into prisons and speaks about Buddhism. So it would be good to have him on to share his views. So I apologise, Speed. I've pulled you onto my stream under false pretenses.
No, that's fine.
But it's been lovely to have you here.
Hopefully we can do next Monday then.
Thank you everyone who's turned up in the chat. I really appreciate your comments. We'll give it another go.
Okay. We can do it next week.
Yeah. Must be my karma.
Mm-hmm. or mine, or it could be Speed's. You never know.
Oh, not me.
Anyway, there we go. Hopefully, everybody.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts and stories. Sorry.
That's right. Everybody should go over to Speed's now because he's going to start a weather report.
Yes,
So.
I'm going to head over there. Catch you over there.
Okay.
Bye for now, folks.
Bye.
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 Okay, you need to end the broadcast first, I'm afraid. So, peace out. Thank you, Ox. Nice to see you. Ciao, James. Let's go through. You sure that one's done? Life is, in fact, a dark Mandelbrot sequence. I would agree, yes. Night, Geo. Yes, Speed gets points for animal content. Yeah. No, they're not all Americans allowed. That is very true. Wow, CB. I'm glad you made that past that point. Hello, Jerry. Yeah, the Italian football was a nightmare. Oh, wow. Taoist priest. That sounds interesting. You have led a life, DB. Okay. Let me try and send a message to Wild to let her know.
I thought I ended the broadcast.
Oh, you're back. Good. I was just sending you a message.
Sorry.
You have to end the broadcast. No, I was kind of filling in until you realised.
Sorry. Bye.